welcome to Capitol Hill. I'm Lyndal Curtis. Ahead of the Economic Forum to be held in Brisbane this week, the Prime Minister has a message for those calling for greater government assistance to industry. She says managing the structural adjustment isn't about government assistance endlessly flowing to industries not able to compete, but about working with industry during the transition. Her message mirrors that given by the Treasury Secretary, Martin Parkinson, and also that by Mr Parkinson's predecessor, Ken Henry. Joining me to discuss the day are Labor Senator Louise Pratt and Liberal MP Andrew Southcott. Welcome to you both.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Lyndal.
We'll start with the efforts of Australia in combination with some other countries to secure the release of lawyers from the International Criminal Court who are in Libya to help one of Colonel Gaddafi's sons prepare his defence. Australian lawyer Melinda Taylor is being detained and Australia is seeking consular access to her as well as her release. The Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister Julie Bishop has warned Libya it should respect the work of the International Criminal Court. Louise, apart from the obvious concern about the welfare of Ms Taylor, how real is the concern about the prospects of Libya's actions undermining the International Criminal Court process?
Well, the International Criminal Court itself has said that Libya and the Criminal Court have had a good working relationship. They've expressed the need for Ms Taylor to be released and for that to be done very quickly. They have said they don't want to do anything to jeopardise that good working relationship, although clearly there are some tensions because we know that Libya would like to see those responsible for atrocities within the Gaddafi regime tried in Libya, and the International Criminal Court is clearly putting things in place for those trials to happen there.
Andrew, given Libya's position, it's far from a settled democracy, and given the strength of feeling there is in the country towards both Colonel Gaddafi and his family, is it at all surprising that there does appear to be some tension over this issue?
I don't think it's surprising. They are, as you said, they're an emerging democracy, but we think that it is important that the work of the International Criminal Court is respected. Melinda Taylor, an Australian, is a representative of the International Criminal Court, and I understand that working with the ICC, they have the equivalent of diplomatic immunity. So we, from the opposition, are with the government on this. We want to see consular access for Melinda Taylor. We want to see her have contact with her husband as well.
Well, now moving back to Australia, after basking in the good economic news last week, the Prime Minister is drawing together 130 business, union, government and non-government organisation leaders to talk about all things economic on Tuesday night and Wednesday. Louise, the Prime Minister has talked today about seizing the opportunities of the future, but given the scope of structural change that's happening in the economy, inevitably will some industries be left behind?
Well, we know that the Australian economy is changing very rapidly. It's not just about the mining boom. We know that retail has been affected by the change in people's spending habits online. We also know that people are spending more money on services, but that services is a growing part of the economy. So yes, our economy is changing, but I think Labor is best placed to manage that change because we're keen to make sure that dividends from things like the mining boom are given their broadest stimulatory effect into other sectors.
Andrew, can any government swim against that tide of structural change and prop up industries that aren't able to compete in the long term?
No, but this is something which I don't think the government has done well. If you think of the reforming governments that we've had over the last 25 years and the structural changes they've managed in the economy over that period, this government doesn't fall into that category. We've seen major changes to the financial system, to the way monetary policy is done, and to the way industry policy has been done. But under this government, they really haven't been upfront about it. We're seeing sectors, particularly in manufacturing, who are suffering, from a number of things. The high Australian dollar, changes to industrial relations, but most importantly, the carbon tax, which is coming on the 1st of July.
But Andrew, the last period of major structural change, the move to bring down the tariff walls during the Hawke and Keating years, also saw an impact on manufacturing. And as the Reserve Bank Governor Glenn Stevens made clear last week, the change in manufacturing has actually been going on for a very long period of time. How can government assist manufacturing during what has been a long-run period of change?
Well, I think they have to be upfront about what's happening. For Australia, which is a relatively high-wage country, we always have to look at niche products in areas like automotive. Some of our strengths have been in the design and engineering of manufacturing, but it's a matter of working with the sector.
Louise, how, given that Labor had that experience during the Hawke and Keating years of managing the structural change then, do you think all the lessons that were learnt then are still uppermost in people's minds, or have some of the lessons about the politics of managing structural change been forgotten?
Well, I think what Labor recognises is that productivity in this kind of structural change is an incredibly important thing, and that's about having skilled labour. And we have invested huge amounts of money in training and education in this country. There are now more people going to university than ever before, and more people in skilled training. And these are the kinds of things that we're going to need to move our economy forward. The structural changes will be unmanageable without those kinds of investments in education and training in this country.
Is it difficult, though, for a government to resist pressure from an industry, from its workers through unions, demanding help when they're in trouble?
Look, I don't think Labor should make any apology for having an active relationship with the union movement, because what they're looking for are things that, as is Labor, is maximising the broad welfare of the Australian population as we go through these changes. Sure, there are tensions, but what we want to see are Australian jobs for Australian workers.
Andrew, do you think the people you talk to in your electorate are aware of the scope of change that's happening in the economy?
Most definitely. I mean, my electorate has seen this very acutely because we had the Mitsubishi manufacturing plant right in the centre of my electorate. And what we've seen over the last 10 or 20 years in South Australia was very reliant on manufacturing, and now we've seen a diversification in the sources of export income, wine, defence industry, and with the expansion at Olympic Dam, mining as well. So my electorate is very aware of this, and there's been a real understanding that we do need to make sure we don't have all our eggs in one basket and that we do back our strengths.
Louise, we saw over the weekend the jobs board that was part of the enterprise migration agreement with the Roy Hill mine get underway. Do you think that the government is doing enough to ensure Australians can get jobs in the mining sector?
Look, the government is doing a lot, but to be honest, we can always do more, and that's why I'm really pleased to be part of a Labor government that is focused on just that. The simple fact is that we have not had traditionally mining companies train nearly enough people, and these agreements need to maximise the education and training places, because there's a reason we have a skill shortage in this country, and that is we have not historically trained enough labour for the kind of mining boom that we are seeing. So in that context, I think the Jobs Board really does need to have that correct emphasis on making sure that we're getting skilled labour through and skilled Australian jobs.
Do you accept, though, that there will be a need for some migrant workforce under the 457 visas, particularly for the labour-intensive construction phase of mines?
Well, yes, I certainly do acknowledge that that's the case, but that's in part because we've got a skill shortage for some of those trades. And why do we have a skill shortage in those trades? Because we haven't trained up enough people here in this country to do those jobs. I'm really pleased that Labor is making those investments in getting both skilled and semi-skilled people trained, but to some extent it's a real problem that the nation kind of missed the boat on getting enough labour organised in time for that boom. It was really something that needed to start many years ago.
Andrew, do you think Australia will ever be able to train enough skilled workers to be able to provide labour to a booming resources sector by itself?
Well, we've always relied on skilled migration, but one of the things I would say, in the previous government, we had a program which encouraged and helped people to move from areas of high unemployment to where the jobs were in the resources sector, and that was axed by the government. And I think one of the issues that we do have, a huge number of jobs in Queensland and Western Australia in mining, but we need to make it easy for people to move from areas of high unemployment to go to those jobs.
If we could finish now just by getting a sense of what's happening in your areas. Andrew, what sort of issues are being raised by your constituency, maybe issues that aren't necessarily on the national agenda?
Look, I think generally what I hear from small businesses is they are finding it's a very tough environment at the moment, especially people who are in retail are finding that definitely the surveys which show that consumer sentiment is way down is what they're experiencing. People are not spending. That's in the retail area. In terms of families, they are really experiencing lots of pressures of cost of living, just bills going up from utilities, electricity, gas, water. All of these things have been going up. They are probably the main topic of conversation. I mean, the third thing that people have definitely been talking about a lot has just been standards, the standards in public life, and there have been a few examples of that people have been focusing on.
And do you particularly get that concern because you're a politician and people expect everyone's behaviour to be better?
I think it has actually been a real conversation around the barbecue over the last month or two. I think no doubt the issues surrounding Peter Slipper and Craig Thompson are ones that have been discussed. People have been talking about. It's not just because I'm an MP and that I'm in politics that people are raising it.
And Louise, you're a senator, but what are the sorts of issues that get raised with you?
Well, as a senator for Western Australia, I've been really fortunate to spend some time in the Kimberley recently, and there's a real sense that we don't want to sit back and watch another resources boom come and go while Aboriginal communities remained marginalised. So it's terrific to see in the Kimberley the number of Indigenous organisations and Indigenous enterprises that are getting really organised and ready to make the most of the economic opportunities that are there and that the economic opportunities that are coming. So it's a really exciting time, but there's a lot of work for business, for government and indeed for Indigenous communities to do.
And that's where we'll have to leave it. But Senator Louise Pratt and Andrew Southcott, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very
Lyndal.
much.
Thank you, Louise.
And thank you for joining Capitol Hill. Please be with us at the same time tomorrow. Good night.